What's happening, people? It's been a while since I've done a live stream. I don't even know if this is going to work. This is going to hold up. We are going to try our very best. Ladies and gentlemen. I understand that it's Friday night. I understand it's late. We are going to do our very best to see if this one works. Please let me know in the comments if you can hear us. If you can hear me, at least for the time being. We're going to do just a quick one. An hour show. No more, no less. As long as everything holds up with the Wi-Fi. Ladies and gentlemen, you know who I've got with me this evening? Friend of the show. A friend of the person. He's Dave from the Irish Hotspur. But ladies and gentlemen, let me just start this off by... I haven't said this for so long. I haven't said it for so long. The Spurs Talk Show. Oh, by the way, merch coming soon. The Spurs Talk Show starts right now. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance, Matt Doherty! Oh, you shite! There could be from the dead to the don't fuck it up now, don't fuck it up! Go and win it! Let's go last chance! Stephen Bergwijn! Stephen Bergwijn's through! Win it, Stephen! Come on! Yes! He's won it! He has won it! Oh my God! Oh my God! We did it! Go check this out. Check this out! Oh, guys, I feel like I haven't done this for months. I know it's been weeks, but it feels like months. How's everybody doing? Listen, I know it's late. It's Friday night. It's 11:15. I can't expect too many of you to presume that this would happen, but I just thought for today, for the first time, I'm starting to get a little bit more consistent Wi-Fi. I don't think the problem is fixed. I still am very suspicious that there's going to be issues, but if there are, there are. You know, shake hands with yourself. Recognize the issues in which you cannot control and make peace with them. And focus on the things that you can control, such as the Serenity Prayer. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. It's been a while. Listen, because I've only got you guys for like 45 minutes before everyone goes to bed, because no one wants to stay up too late on a Friday unless you're out gluggling, glug, and whatever you're doing. And if you were doing that, you wouldn't be doing this. I hope everyone's doing well either way. Let me bring in my man right now. He's a really good friend of mine. He's also the number one Tottenham fan from Ireland, the number one Harry Kane fan. He has a monitor on Harry Kane's haircuts. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Let's hope this works. Let's hope there's no transition here. Dave from the Irish Hotspur. How you doing, Dave?
I'm all good, my man. I'm all good. Hopefully this Wi-Fi holds up, and hopefully we'll have a banging preview, my man. Thank you again for asking me and having me back, brother. Let's go.
It's super quick, short notice, my man. I really appreciate you for putting down your pens, your Google Drive, whatever it is that you're using to figure out tomorrow's pump up show. It's amazing, man. Thank you so much.
Look. No need to sit here and fucking, say thanks or anything like that, lad. You more than do enough helping us on our channel. So I'm not even going to hear it, my man.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. How's my audio? Is my audio working okay?
Yours is good. I just hope mine is okay, because I actually remembered earlier I plugged out my microphone and plugged in headphones earlier. So is mine okay? People hear me?
Yeah. I think I can certainly hear you. Let me just spend a couple of minutes. We haven't got long, guys. We haven't got too long because it's late and people have got things to do. Let me just quickly say hello to a few people because I haven't done this for a long time. We've got Muno in the house. What's happening, Muno? He says, "Get to bed, Sean, you DJ." The first comment in a while with live streaming, and it's telling me to go away. Welcome back, Muno. Welcome back, Leon, as well. Big up, Shawnee. What's happening, my man? Working well so far. That's awesome. Cooper from Alabama, my Alabama slammer. He's saying it's early where he is. He can handle it. Good to see you. David Clark, what's happening, my man? Hope you're doing well, my brother. He's coming all the way from Leicester. And then we've got the beautiful, the lovely, the wonderful Emily Dunn in the background of another stream. Thank you so much, Emily. I really appreciate the super chat. It's very generous of you. You never need to do that on this channel, as you know, but I very much appreciate it. Fingers crossed for the Wi-Fi. Dave and I both have got Wi-Fi issues going on right now, don't we? We're not sure what's going to happen.
Oh, mine was fixed today, Shawnee. They're out on the roads there across the way, fixing them today, fixing the lines. So it should be good, yeah.
Well, they were just digging up, like, no problem.
Well, where it is, it's like it's a little car park, so they can afford to go without parking for a few hours of the day, lad.
Right, fair enough. See, apparently, the problem that I'm suffering is that it's in the middle of a main road that has, it's just busy, and so they have to like.
So, if there's anybody out there with a JCB, please get in contact. We need to rip up the road outside Sean's house so they have no excuses but to get out there.
100%. Let's hello, Spencer Roberts in the house. What's happening? Spence, good to see you, man. Says hello, everyone. Lisa, he's saying he's back. She's saying he's back. What are you doing up so late, Sean? Stuff you love to see. Listen, I thought it'd be nice to just trial it. I'm not expecting any big numbers. Just thought I'd go 45 minutes. And I said to Dave I was going live. Did he have a little spare half an hour? And he said he did. And so we're just going to go through it. Phil's in the house as well. What's happening, Phil? Big up Sean and the number one Irish Spurs fan, Dave. Hope the Wi-Fi holds up for you. 3-0 win tomorrow with Richie to get a brace. Interesting.
By the way,
yeah, go on, mate.
Just quickly, man, I didn't run away from the fan show because you were coming on. My dad's car broke down, so I had to try and help him out, my man. That's why I had to leave the fan show. But pick yourself up.
Nice. But good to see you, Phil. It's been a while, my man. And Alec, who else should I say hello to? Joseph's in the house as well, saying pick up Sean and David. And Alex is in the house saying, evening, gents, was going to go to bed. You changed my mind. Hey, but maybe we can, sing you a lullaby from bed. Take your laptop with you and enjoy the next sort of 45 minutes, buddy.
What you can do is you can test out me and Sean. If you end up falling asleep, clearly we're doing something wrong. Yeah. So you can let us know the results, my man.
Unsubscribe tomorrow. No problem. No problem at all. Paddy Hartless also in the house saying, well, fuck the two of you. I was just going to bed and now I have to watch. Listen, we're not going to be around for long. I've got to respect Dave's time. He's got a lot of work to do for his big day tomorrow.
No, I'm here for as long as you need me, brother.
Well, listen, mate, there's a few things I want to talk about, right? So I did my Tottenham walk this morning and, I did 2 Tottenham walks. One of them was about Clement Longley, right? I don't know if you haven't seen it. Essentially,
I've had a hell of a day today. I haven't watched it.
I get it. It's all good. So I want to talk about that. Right, but also because there's a few news articles that have come out subsequently, which are pertinent and relevant to that. And then also I spoke a little bit after that. I uploaded another video about my Everton team, which was heavily reliant on, I was waxing lyrical about how excited I am to see Decky and Doherty rekindle. Why are you laughing?
I was getting excited as well, and then 20 minutes later, I got a message to say he was out. I was like,
he's injured. Exactly right. Exactly. So I thought it wouldn't be a bad idea because I recorded the video at like 10 o'clock this morning, and I delayed it until like 5-6 p.m. tonight to upload it. But about 2 o'clock, I heard the Decky news, and I was like, well, now that video is just going to be out of date and immediately look silly. So I wanted to talk to you about basically rekindle the Everton team talk news. I want to see what you think about that. But I do want to start with the news that I spoke about earlier on, right? So there's this guy called John Wenham, and I didn't know who he was. I haven't heard of him. But essentially, he claims that he's a journalist, but he claims that he's a club insider and in the know. And he claimed in this article that, which is unusual for in the knows, he claimed that this narrative has been leaked to him and to other in the knows that Clement Longley, the club have already decided to not extend. They've already decided that at the end of the summer that Tottenham are not going to look to extend Clement Longley's contract or his loan deal. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing no one said anything bad. There's no quotes that are they're unhappy with Longley or whatever else. It's more around that they say that Tottenham have got a big ambition, a big plan to refocus and to drive a lot of money into the left-sided centre-back role, right? And so I went through the whole process because I'm not sure if you remember, Dave, but back in the summer I spent many hours waxing lyrical about Clement Longley, having done all and I think he's done really well at Tottenham. I think he's growing into his role. I think he's better than Ben Davies, especially on the ball. And I don't think he's done anything wrong. And if Tottenham have made this decision so quickly, then it's a bit of a head scratcher for me to think that we're writing him off. And I wanted to get your opinion on it before I bring the other news, because I've just looked online and there's a couple of other articles that have dropped today that are about Tottenham monitoring Josko Gvardiol and news about another player in Skriniar that Tottenham were looking at. And I don't know if the three are connected, but I wanted to start off by asking you what your thoughts were generally on how Clement Longley has been, how he's played, how he started at Tottenham, and then we can go from there.
I'll be honest, Sean, I'm a big fan of Clement Longley. Look, as good as Ben Davies was last year, I was rattling on about how poor he was on the ball, and everyone was saying to me, "Oh, Ben Davies was so good. He's good. We've got to give him a chance next season." It's that's fine, but when you look at contest teams like Inter, Chelsea, you players that could play out from the back that are good on the football. And when you looked at it last season and you looked at all the stats, that was the glaring, obviously, stats staring at you in the face. We need to improve how good we are on the ball coming out from the back. And look, for me, I'm not really surprised that Clement Longley has come in and done what he done. Yes, look, there's doubts about him in the air and stuff like that, but what he gives us on the ball is so much more. It means we can transition the ball into the midfield. It's with so much ease, with so much quicker. But I've also seen the guy put balls down in behind for Sonny to run onto. It's the range of passing this guy offers. I've been very impressed with him. I actually think also defensively, he's been fairly solid in my opinion. Now, look, am I surprised that maybe there are articles saying that maybe Spurs have already judged that they're not going to go ahead with the guy? Yes and no. Look, the reason why I say no was we knew in the summer that we were looking to go big there. There was massive talks about Bastoni. That didn't work out for whatever reason. But now he's not even playing at Inter Milan. So I would say that has probably opened itself up again, or an agent has been in contact and said, okay, look, make the move in January next summer and we'll work with you to get the deal done. That could be the case. But I'm also surprised that they've made the decision, because for me, he's not going to go for massive money this summer. Bring him in. He's better than Ben Davies, and ship Ben Davies on. Look, as much as people like Ben Davies, he's been here 8 years, and over the course of his career, he's been an okay servant, but going forward, we have to have better backup players coming in where it's not so much of a drop-off in quality, in my opinion. So I am pretty surprised. I really like Langley. I think he's been good for Tottenham Hotspur.
So do I.
I actually think he's walking up. Sorry, just quickly. Sorry for the cross. I actually think he's actually woken up a lot of Spurs fans to what we need in the modern day and age, playing out from the back, going forward, what we actually need in that position. So, for me, I would like to keep him. But Sean, you asked me that question on the watch along there the other day. I'm going to ask you the same question. Would you keep Langley, still invest in that position, and get rid of Ben Davies?
Yes, like somebody else. So when I put the video out earlier, I forget who it was, and I forgive them if they're watching right now, or please forgive me if you're watching right now. But somebody else made the case to say there was a lot of people. There was a lot of people that said that Longley was only ever on a loan. David Clark, I think it was, that made a really good point. Or maybe it was either him or Derek Smith. One of the two of them said, look, Longley was only ever on a loan deal, so he shouldn't be upset by this news to say that and he knows what he came in for. And there was a lot of kind of similar things. A lot of people that were saying he's not any really not that much better than the Ben Davies, and I was kind of like, well, I think he is. I think he's about the equivalent defensively.
Yeah.
And then going forward, he's head and shoulders above. The pace, the zip in which he passes the ball forward, his progressive passes are phenomenal. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I have seen the stats. They are equivalent to what I always said in the summer, that he's brilliant at doing that. And his long balls are, whether it's across the pitch. So I feel more comfortable when he's in the 11 than when Ben Davies is in the 11, if I'm honest, right? I do. But he doesn't count as a homegrown player. Ben Davies does, ever since the Champions League reworking of that rule. And so when somebody else mentioned it this morning in the comments saying, why don't we just sell Ben Davies and sign Clement Longley? And if anything, you could sign Clement Longley for 10 million. You could probably sell Ben Davies for 25 million. And then still go and improve on the left-sided centre-back, still go and improve on Eric Dyer, still go and improve on the right wing-back. Because my whole contention with this news, essentially, Dave, was like, the Google news is coming in. It looks like it's going to happen, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But for me, January is a very difficult time to do any business. And for me, I just don't think it's a priority. Like, we've got enough cover there. I think that Longley is an improvement on Ben Davies. He might not be the superstar that we want. He might not be a Bastoni or a Guardiola. But like, to your point, Bastoni's had a very, very bad opening 3 months of the season in Inter. He's been dropped from the first team. So had we gone and spent 60 million quid on him, and then the version of Bastoni that has been seen at Inter this year came into Tottenham, everyone would be scratching their head. Guardiola is another one. Sorry.
Yeah, just on Bastoni, I look at it a bit differently, Sean. I actually think it's a blessing in disguise, because to me, they've left it too long. So because he's only got, but come January, it'll be a year and a half left on his contract. His value is decreased, so it means we should get him cheaper, or even if we go from again in the summer. Plus, he's unhappy he's not playing, so there's going to be reluctance there to sign a new contract. But many people said the same about Clement Longley coming in here. He's adjusted just fine, and he's done well. So, Bastoni, when he was at his best, was under Antonio Conte. That's when everyone was talking about this guy. I'm no doubt Conte will be able to get him back there again. So for me, I think it actually works out in our favour, Sean.
100%, I agree with you, and this is why I think that what you just said is on top of that is like the adjustment period. If there's any truth to this fella John Wenham, and he's claiming that he's I've never heard of his name before, but he's claiming he's a journalist that's in the know, and he said in this article that was on Team Talk, he said that a lot of the in the knows of Tottenham Hotspur have been informed that the decision has been made, right? That Tottenham are going to go a different direction in the summer for a left-sided centre-back, which was the kind of catalyst for my video this morning. Because, like, first and foremost, I just think it's too early. Like, for me personally, I think he's done really well, right? But even if you didn't agree, and people don't always agree on opinions, but so if the Tottenham hierarchy have made a decision on Clement Longley that quickly, should they have made a decision on Basuma that quickly? On Jed Spence that quickly, who hasn't played a minute? Basuma's played a few minutes, right? And Richarlison's played more than Longley, and he hasn't been spectacular. So for me, the whole thing's a little bit strange. But I agree with you that if like Bastoni hasn't had a good period into this season, then like for me, the whole thing's weird. And the only thing that I can make sense of it is that Tottenham, because we have other priorities, Dave, because we need a central centre-back, we need somebody to give Eric Dyer a bit of a competition. Obviously everyone knows we need a right wing back that's that's more capable than Doherty or than Jed Spence, and we probably need a central midfielder that can offer us some sort of attacking threat. January is a very hard window to do anything. If we are going to do anything, for me, making a move on the left-sided centre-back, even if Bastoni is available, even if his early frustrations this summer or this season have made him have ameliorated the concerns about him leaving, because in the summer he didn't want to leave Italy, right? He wanted to open his bar or whatever it was. If the problems that are happening with him at Inter make him more malleable to coming to Tottenham now, or if Josko Gvardiol and the news that he is or isn't going to go to Chelsea, but that deal isn't done yet, if that's what is creating this narrative, then would you want to pull the trigger? And if Gvardiol's available, knowing in January, knowing that Chelsea are after him, if Bastoni's available in January, knowing the Inter and financial problems and that it hasn't worked out for him thus far this season, would you rather Tottenham were to pull the trigger on the long-term future of our left-sided centre-back? Or are you happy enough with what Longley has provided and think that we should be focusing wherever money is available in the central centre-back, the right wing-back and the cam role?
I think, look, Sean, you know my feelings on defence. I think it's got to be the most improved area this summer. I think it's where we've got to do the majority of our business, and you could probably say maybe an extra body up in the forward areas would probably be needed as well. But look, I'm not surprised, because we already knew Tottenham's plan from the summer was to try and attain someone for a long-term future at Tottenham Hotspur. Look at the age profile players we were linked with in Dike, Gvardiol, Bastoni. So it was clear in the summer that we had our attention on that, and that's why we probably brought in Langley, and it was like a stopgap, and I think it was rumoured to be that at the time. But look, I get Ben Davies is homegrown, Sean, but why do we keep persisting with things that we know have let us down in the past? And it's kind of like these guys have let us down this season already at times, some of these guys that have been here for 7-8 years. It's kind of like, ship him on, ship Sanchez on. You can get someone else that can be homegrown in here as a backup to Romero, and bring Langley in as a cheap option and bring Bastoni in. And there's your plan for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Over the left side, you bring in some guy to go in maybe in and around Romero's age. There's your plan over the right side for 4 or 5 years, if not a bit longer. Yeah. And then you can bring in someone like another guy to challenge Eric Dyer. And so for me, I think we still have options. And if you're good, so for me, we've already got our left wing back situation sorted out. So I'm not surprised that we're building for the future, because if we're being honest, look what Toby and Jan gave us when they came to the club. Or Toby, especially in Jan Vertonghen's, he was there as young enough. And look at the length of time we got out. And then Toby Alderweireld that came in then to support him. And look at the defensive partnership that we put together. So for me, I think it's smart, and I would be focusing my money on left-sided centre-back, and probably Spence. I still have a sneaky suspicion about Spence.
In what way?
Conte said some nice words on him today, apparently. He basically said that he's starting to understand what it takes to play for Tottenham Hotspur. And for me, look, you see many pundits predicting that he might see some minutes this weekend. So yeah. I think he'll surprise a lot of people. I really do. I think the guy's got ability. And look, we're very quick to write off young players at Tottenham. We've done the same with Gill. He clearly showed the other day he's got star quality in him. So let's not do the same with Spence.
Yeah, listen, mate, it's a great transition. I am going to come back to the Gvardiol news, because there is a you know what? Let me just finish it off right now. Let's stick to the defense for a second. So, according to Football Transfer Tavern, I know it's a nonsense article, but they're referencing Football Insider that says that and this is why I think that there might be some correlation to what John Wenham was saying. Like I say, I don't know who John Wenham is, but apparently he's somebody who's in the know and a club insider. He's saying that Spurs are now closely, and I quote, closely monitoring Gvardiol and are stepping up their pursuit after Fabio Paratici sent scouts to watch him in action during Leipzig's Champions League 2-0 victory over Celtic on Tuesday. It's like, to me, the only rationale, Dave, that would make sense of writing off the long-term viability of Longley as a left-sided centre-back option for anything more than the stopgap that he was signed for is if we have somebody in mind who is going to be better and could hang around for 4 or 5 years, 6 years. And Gvardiol is that guy. Now, maybe Chelsea's pursuit of them. We saw it a few weeks ago that Chelsea were trying to sort of strike some sort of deal with the Leipzig hierarchy. It didn't come to fruition, but maybe that was the kick in the backside that Tottenham needed to stop thinking that they're the only people in the hunt for a left-sided centre back. So if that's the case, if Tottenham have had some information about Bastoni, that he's more amenable to the idea that he come away from Inter Milan in January or in the summer, or if Gvardiol, if there's an opening there for Tottenham to sort of get in between Chelsea and them, then I'm okay with the idea of Longley not being the long-term future. But
the thing is, Longley's only 27. He's younger than Ben Davies, so you're still going to have, if you buy Longley, you're still going to have him for 3-4 years. It's still like 3-4 years in football is still a long enough term plan.
So would you be suggesting then that I think somebody else, who was it? I just saw it a minute ago. Somebody suggested. Bill suggested, no, not that one. He was laughing at Davies for 25 million, but I think later on he said, here we go. He says Longley will end up staying on a free transfer. If Barcelona are desperate to get him off the wage bill, do you think that maybe the future vision for Tottenham Hotspur might be for a left-sided centre-back to be Longley and either Gvardiol or Bastoni as the viable option or the viable competition?
I think it's got to be. I really do. Longley is at a better level than Ben Davies, and bringing in a long-term guy as well. For me, I think it's got to be the way forward, Sean. I think there's no other option, to be honest with you. Look, Ben Davies, I'm not too impressed with him this season, but he's limited. And if we want to push on to where we want to go to, and with the money that's in football now, and with the level of player that City's now attracting, the gap is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's up to you to get the right players in place quickly to try and close that gap before it expands yet again. And for me, this is the only way of doing it. There's no point in persisting with players that have been there, that they've done a good job, but ultimately they've never got you over the line. So go with something different, give the whole thing a refresh.
Love it, mate. I love it. It makes sense to me. I'm okay with that. Listen, I've got no problem with Ben Davies. I think he's been a decent servant of the club, and absent the homegrown clause for me, if there was a chance to get somebody else in the left-sided centre-back, if that's what Tottenham's big ambitions look like, I don't necessarily think it has to mean that Longley isn't part of that. Because for me, when you compare Ben Davies and Longley, I think they're comparable defensively. And I think when you have the ball, I think that Longley is head and shoulders above Ben Davies. Let's move on towards
Sean. It's the way football is going, where you have to have defenders that are good on the ball. It's the modern way, and if you want to keep track placement, that you've got to have like for like. You can't have Longley 1 week progressing the ball nicely and everything else and helping us get forward, and then Davies in the next week where we can't even get out of our own half. It can't be so up and down. If you want to build momentum and confidence, one player comes out, you've got to bring in another guy that as well.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And in terms of the central centre-back option, listen, there's been more news that's come out today. I'm referencing here Tutto Sport that says that contract talks between Inter and Skriniar have not gone well, and the defender is now on course to leave the club for nothing next summer. With that in mind, Inter are said to be considering selling Skriniar on the cheap in January, potentially giving Tottenham the chance to complete a deal. That is obviously maybe the best path towards some sort of competition for Eric Dyer. What's your thoughts on Milan Skriniar, Dave?
I'd like him to come in here. I think he'd solve definitely our problems with aerial ability, with being able to defend set pieces. I think he'd be that defender that I talk about, where it's like you've got to have that inner desire to be like, I'm going to be the one to clear this. Not looking around waiting for someone else to be like, oh, will I go for it? Won't I go for it? You've already made that decision in your mind. And I think he'll be a solution. He's not going to be the whole part of the solution, but he's definitely going to help us in that department. But we've also got to remember PSG were trying to get him out of Inter in the summer. So if it comes to PSG or Tottenham, I think he's going to pick PSG all day long. You know, a chance to play with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. Not sure he's going to turn that down. Plus, they're going to offer a lot more money personally to him than what we are. And Paris, you know, a lot of people seem to like it as a desired destination to live. So for me, I think he'd pick Paris all day long. So if that is the news floating about, like we done with Højbjerg before the end of the season when we signed him, why not try and get this one wrapped up a bit early before the January transfer window? If that's the case,
I think it makes so much sense. If they're worried that he's going to be lost for free in the summer, you know, much like some of the goalkeepers that we're touted about. I'm not going to talk about them tonight, but the idea of getting a Skriniar, and he's a fantastic centre back in my opinion, and absolutely, if we think that Longley and Davies offers some level of competition for each other, for me, Longley's clear. Of the Dyer Skriniar conversation, for me, Skriniar is clear without a doubt, right? And if we can get that done for 10 million quid, 15 million quid, whatever it takes just to twist the arm of Inter Milan, then get it done on January the 1st. Pay for it with hopefully the Google news we're going to talk about in a second, because there's a little bit more development on that this evening. But before we get onto that, you mentioned Jed Spence. I haven't seen Conte's press conference. Do you have on the top of your mind what it was that Antonio Conte said about Jed Spence?
Yeah, give me one sec, Sean. I have it in here. As you know, I like to make sure I have a lot of bases covered on these pre-match build-ups after the questions don't even get used. Just give me 1 second, lad. I'll just find it. But basically, where is it? He said basically he's working and he's improving and he's starting to understand what the demand is to stay at Tottenham. I'm pleased to have more options, basically, is what he said on Jed Spence.
Okay. So for me on my Tottenham walk this morning, when I was talking about my predicted lineup, I said, look, everyone, you can have your opinion about Jed Spence not being in the team. And I've been somebody like you guys, like everybody, basically, that's been very vocal about the absence of Jed Spence. But what I did actually come to, I said this on your show on the watch along after the watch along against Frankfurt, mate. And I stand by it, right? I've stepped on it, and then I thought maybe I was a little bit too one way, but maybe I'm moving back, but I still stand by the idea. In terms of like challenging Antonio Conte, most people were worried and wondering why it was that Yves Bissouma hasn't seen too many minutes in a Tottenham shirt. For me, when he has seen minutes, he hasn't been great. He's been nothing like the player that we know and have appreciated from his time in Brighton. We saw him for that period in the West Ham game, and he was absolutely awful. And we thought maybe it's because he's in a 3-4-3 and he plays better in a 3-5-2. And then we saw him for 20 minutes against Leicester in the 3-5-2, and he kind of impressed. Against Brighton, he played in the 3-5-2, and he was. Well, I don't think he was particularly good if you were watching him and comparing him to Højbjerg and Bentancur, Dave. But what I would go as far as to say is that him sitting back and doing his job allowed Højbjerg and Bentancur the kind of freedom and the liberal approach to be able to go and do what they did going forward. So I'm going to take a little slice of the credit that we give to Højbjerg and Bentancur and associate it to Bissouma's performance behind it. But generally speaking, I wasn't that impressed. And then when he came on against Frankfurt, again, I wasn't that impressed. I used the phrase positionally naive. And I feel like on the basis of that, on the basis of the 4 or 5 performances where he really hasn't shone to the level that I thought he would, Conte clearly saw that and knew that, despite every Tottenham fan questioning Conte and saying, "Why aren't we seeing Bissouma?"
You know what it is, though, Sean? We question Conte without doing the research. If anyone looked at Conte's previous history at previous teams, Christian Eriksen left Tottenham. That January, Tottenham fans were saying, "Go and get Christian Eriksen back on loan. He's not getting game time at Inter." But then after that window, he got into the Inter team, and he went on to have a good end to the campaign. And the reason why is because they have to get up to date tactically. In that centre midfield, it's the most tactical discipline position on the football pitch. You've got to be tactically disciplined defensively, but you've also got to offer going forward. So it's the most, you would say it's the position that is most crucial on the football pitch. You can't just leave a gaping hole in the middle. You're going to get punished. And you also look back at his Chelsea team. Fabregas was on fire when he walked in there. Fabregas came out of his team and didn't come into his team again till midway through the season till he understood the position. You know, and it's like we say and ask these teams, but without doing any research on what he's been like at his previous clubs. And if you looked at that, that would have told you the answer straight away.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, and I 100% agree with what you're saying. But on the same basis that a lot of fans challenge Conte, saying, "Why isn't Basuma playing?" Like, it's the same conversation that's happening around about Perisic. About Jed Spence. For me, the only difference is that with the three men in midfield that could have been played more, you've got Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, that last season, myself and everybody else, and I'm guilty of it.
Not me, don't put me in that category, not me, Sean.
Well, listen, I feel like everybody, I was someone that loved Højbjerg like you, but I think everybody recognised, maybe I'm wrong about yourself personally, but a lot of people that I remember speaking to recognised or thought there was a ceiling, right, to what Højbjerg was capable of, and we recognised how brilliant he was.
I definitely thought that, yeah.
Yeah, that he plays towards his ceiling week in, week out. This season, though, he has smashed through that ceiling. And so, the fact that he's only 27, for me, is like, now I'm like, oh, I don't know anymore. Like, how good could this guy be? And Bentancur has been, I think, a very good compatriot for Højbjerg. And so maybe that's the reason why Basuma hasn't had the minutes that he had. But when Basuma has been given the chance, he hasn't stepped up. But a lot of Tottenham fans challenged and questioned that decision. A lot of Tottenham fans challenged and questioned the decision around Sonny. And a lot of Tottenham fans have challenged and questioned the decision around the right wing-back spot. Now, it's a little bit easier to challenge and question the right wing-back slot decision because Doherty hasn't really played, and when he's not been fantastic. And obviously, Emerson Royale is Emerson Royale. You either love him as a cult hero, or you recognise that he's, not the best not particularly talented as a right wing back. For me, though, I'm wondering now, Dave, whether or not Jed Spence's omission from the team is because Conte maybe he does know genuinely that Jed Spence isn't ready. If he didn't think Basuma was ready, and when Basuma was given a chance, he didn't take it, then should we give Conte the same benefit of the doubt with regards to Jed Spence?
Of course we have to, Sean. I think we also have to get used to everything Conte does is coming from a winner's perspective. And he can do that because he's got the trophies in the bank. Now, when I look at what's gone on with Jed Spence, now when he came out with some of the words he did, I didn't necessarily agree with it, especially with the way younger people's mentality is now compared to when I was growing up. It's a lot weaker and a lot more fragile now than when I was growing up. They can't really handle that sort of criticism, whereas when I was growing up and we were criticized, we took it on board to try and develop ourselves to be a better person. But now they just think, oh, the whole world's against me, it hates me, blah, blah, blah. And it's just kind of like, but when you look at it, Conte is a good judge of character. He's a good manager. He probably looked at Spence and he probably spoke to him nicely behind the scenes, like he done with Matt Doherty. Yeah. Wasn't getting anything back in return. Puts it out in the press, he probably sees them sharpen up so much quicker, So whether it's in the press or whether it's behind the scenes, I think we have to understand that Conte will have a good gauge of what each individual needs, whether it is behind the scenes being ripped apart or whether it is in the press. So for me, I think we've just got to realize it's a calculated decision what he does. He's not just going to come out and berate players for no reason at all, And I think we've just kind of got to understand that it does come from a place of being a winner, and he's an experienced coach. He knows. And why would you throw a young lad in because the fans are calling for him if you know he's not? If you know in your heart and soul he's not ready, what's that going to do to you? What's that going to do to the young lad's confidence? How do you expect him to pick himself up and develop from there? So it's kind of like with a young guy, you've got to drop him in at the right time. And with the words that he said today, maybe that time is coming.
Maybe the time's coming.
But I would say at times he's been unlucky. I think he would have seen minutes in League Cup by now, because that would have started by now. But because it's World Cup year, it's not. It's our last game before we head off. So I do think on a normal season he would have seen minutes by now. But we've just got to trust Conte. We've just got to trust him. No matter what he does, it's calculated. And it's all about psychological with Conte. Like, he knows, okay, I'll challenge Spence in the press. Let's see his reaction tomorrow in training. And then he's giving him a reaction. But then Conte's also man enough to come back out and say, okay, well,
he's
this
improving.
He's doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's super important, right? So I 100% agree with you. Like, I've been somebody that has been vocal on my channel saying, like, I don't understand why we persist with the 3-4-3. I thought that Sonny deserved to be rested or rotated. I'll call it as I see it, because I genuinely believe that as a Tottenham fan, not just one that has a fan channel, but anybody that's listening, I think that you have a right and a responsibility to raise your voices, right? You finance the club, whether it's through your Sky Sports membership or wherever you are in the world, whatever you're subscribing to, you're feeding money into the club, whether you're going to the game or buying jerseys, whatever. You have a right to have an opinion. And it does really annoy me. I'm not going to drag you into this, Dave, by asking you for a rebuttal on this, but I see other channels that try to censor and compress other people's opinions, and it pisses me right off that they say, like, that you're not entitled to do this, or you shouldn't be feeling a certain way. You shouldn't say that sort of thing. Your energy should be focused in one direction only. It's a control mechanism to make sure that everybody in the Spurs community is pushing their energy in the way that certain channels want you to do it, and you shouldn't feel that you should be obliged to do that. If you want to be pissed off with Conte, if you want to be pissed off with Daniel Levy, if you want to be pissed off with me, or another channel, for example, that doesn't even have a Tottenham narrative, but just has an opinion on it, you should be entitled to enjoy or unenjoy their content and their narratives and speak freely. That's what we do in a free speaking world. And anybody that's trying to suppress that kind of narrative, it shouldn't happen, and it drives me up the wall. What I would say about Conte is that I myself, I'm like malleable to new information, and right now I feel like I was part of the narrative that was saying, I don't understand why Jed Spence can't get a minute. I don't understand why Bissouma can't get a minute. I don't understand why Perisic is being continued to play in front of Sessegnon, because I personally feel that, you know, Perisic, for example, I think he compresses and suffocates the life out of the space that Sonny needs. But that's just my opinion, and everyone can disagree or agree. There's no echo chambers on this channel. What I would say on top of that is, having said all that in the past, having held Conte to account for not giving enough minutes to Bissouma, and then when I finally seen Bissouma play and recognized that he isn't ready, he doesn't understand the positional awareness, in my opinion, I now recognize why he sticks with Højbjerg and Bentancur more than giving Bissouma or Ollie Skip minutes. And so I'm now more malleable, and I'm more okay with the idea that if Conte doesn't think that Jed Spence is ready, so be it. So be it. And if he thinks that Matt Doherty is the necessary injection into that role when Emerson is out, I still don't think that Emerson should be the right wing back of choice, but he's the guy who gets paid 15 million quid, right? So I'll trust him on that basis. But if Doherty's the guy that's coming in, and this is my transition now into the Everton game, I was super excited this morning, Dave, by the idea of seeing Matt Doherty and Jed's and Decky play together, because for everybody that's like okay with the results but not okay with the style of play that got the results this season, everyone that's unhappy with Conte's, like basically the strategy, the only time that Tottenham played really good football and got results was in a very specific 2-month period after Decky joined the club, February the 1st, February the 10th, whatever, all the way through until the Aston Villa game when Doherty got his knee almost ripped off by I forget who it was, the Aston Villa player. In that particular 8-game period, I know how much you dislike Doherty. I'm not asking you to change that, but that for me was the best football that Tottenham have played, and in no small part, it was because of the brilliant relationship and the chemistry that Kulusevski and Doherty had forged together as a 2-ball, and with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg joining in as a 3-ball, and the fact that they could just build triangles and just pass the ball through triangles all the way down the pitch, and then Decky would then go and do his thing and create goals or opportunities for Harry Kane and Sonny. We haven't seen that since Aston Villa. And so for me, I was super excited to see the potential of Doherty and Decky. That's not going to happen now tomorrow, because apparently Decky's picked up an injury. And so on the basis of that, my starting 11 changes. But before I go into any more rants, I've been ranting for a few minutes now. What is it that you would like to see now for the Everton game as a mechanism to try to get the best performance and the best result?
I'm torn on this, Sean, because Everton play a three-man midfield, and at the minute it's a decent midfield. What is it? Gaia, he's a good ball winner, full of energy. As much as I hate the guy, and by the way, he's got a hair that Romero will love. Iwobi, he's having a good campaign. And who's the other one? I'll get the name of him now. Give me 1 second.
Who's that? Sorry, this is the Everton player.
The three in midfield. Who's the three they play? It's Iwobi, it's Idrissa Gana Gueye, and there's another guy to play in there. But they've got good energy in that midfield, and we have struggled at times against a three in midfield. Now, interestingly enough,
and Anana.
Anana, he's a good player, by the way. He's got a lot of energy. He does. I've watched him. He's box to box. He's got very good energy. And we look, interestingly enough, Conte went with a three in midfield against Brighton to try and stifle them, and it worked. But then midweek he switched back to the 3-4-3. But also, the only minute Spencer's seen of the Premier League action or football this season came at Nottingham Forest. Basuma. But the first time Conte started him without necessity, because West Ham was out of necessity, was Brighton. So, will he give Richarlison a chance against his former club? Because he seems to like to do that. But does it come from the bench, or does he start? Now, I know there was concerns with Richarlison after the Frankfurt game that maybe he picked up a slight injury. Now, how fit is he? We'll wait and see. Like, there was whether he's fit enough to start or not. But if he's fit enough to start, I do predict Tottenham to go for a 3-4-3. I don't mind us putting an extra body in the middle, try and stifle Everton. But when I look at Everton, I think they're there for the taking, Sean. Yeah, they've got the third best defence in the league, but they play a really high line. Both of Man United's goals came from counter-attacking football against Everton last week. So I think we can definitely apply that in the 3-4-3. They played a mad high line against us last season. We absolutely punished them for it. So for me, I think that's there again for us. And I'm just torn. Do I go for the extra man in midfield and sacrifice potentially creating some chances, which we didn't create much against Brighton? Or do we go back to the 3-4-3 where we created chances in the first game against Frankfurt and created an awful lot in the last game against Frankfurt? We could have ended with 6 or 7 goals. So I'm a bit torn. But I prefer the 3-4-3, even when people were giving out about it. I was saying to people, it's not the formation, it's the forward line. Anytime the ball is progressing to the forward line, it's not working. It's not clicking. Someone's way off the boil. Kane, although scoring goals, was off the boil. But the two of them were excellent the other night. Absolutely excellent. And you could see the benefits of the 3-4-3.
Sonny didn't have the cramp of Perisic behind him.
You know what? Look,
I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts on this one, mate. I want to hear your thoughts on this one. I've been talking about this for bloody ages. That Perisic is a good player. He's a great player going forward. I think he's woeful defensively, but whatever he offers going forward, he takes away from Sonny. And I think the stats back it up. Sonny's only good performances this year have been when Sessegnon is behind him. He's got a relationship there. And just like how Doherty and Decky just hit the ground running and just came up with like synergies and synchronicity and fucking chemistry, the opposite, the entire antithesis of that has happened with Perisic and Sonny. And I don't think Perisic going forward with the ball is good enough to justify the damage it has on our second or first most important player in Sonny. And I don't know if you agree with me but I do want to hear your opinion on whether or not what I'm saying makes sense.
No, I think. Look, I think it does make sense. Like when you look at it, you just look at it. Session does not get forward nowhere near as much as Perisic did. Perisic is much more offensive, and when you look at it, because he's so high, he takes that space that Son would usually operate, running in behind, or as that space where the ball's put into Sonny's feet. Because Perisic is so high and bringing the guy with him, it puts more bodies around Son. Whereas before, he might have a bit more time on the ball to work with. So I do think you're right in that aspect, but I still don't think Perisic or Sessegnon is great. I don't think he deserved man the match at Brighton. I don't think he was good as everyone was saying he was the other night. I think he's better than Perisic defensively, but I still find Sessegnon suspect at times defensively. Perisic is a lot better going forward, and I do think eventually Son and Perisic will work. It's just a few teething problems. You know, even if Conte just said to Perisic, just hang back a little. Leave that little bit of space for Son. Just hang back. Get more involved in the build-up play rather than look at running behind and get the crosses because you're talented enough to do it. But I think they'll find a way. I think two world-class players can play with each other without a problem. Yeah, it may take teething time, but I think they'll get it. But right now, I agree with you. I don't think Perisic is good enough going forward to warrant him to play and take away from Son's attacking ability. I do agree with that. I'll be honest, I'm a big fan of Perisic. I've been a big fan of the guy for a long time. I'm a big fan of him when he was at Dortmund. I like Croatian players, but he has been very disappointing this season. But he still has more better attacking output than what Sessegnon does, and I think that tells you.
And he's got whatever it is, 5
and Sessegnon being defensive.
Yeah, he's got 5. I think 5 assists. You know, he's listen. You can't knock the guy for his energy and stuff. For me, it just comes down to the impact, and it's not all about the player. You know, like you look at Manchester United last season. They had Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best players, if not the best player in the world, and the impact of him being on the pitch, what it did to the rest of Manchester United, ended up with, if it's a 0-sum game, it ended up with, you know, it being to the detriment of Manchester United. And this year, Manchester United have done far better since Cristiano Ronaldo has been out of the team. So I'm not negging on Perisic, and I totally take your point that I think that they can figure it out and work it out. I actually think if we go to a 3-5-2 with 3 men in the midfield, I think that with Sonny will have naturally more space anyway. Yeah, it would work a lot better to have Perisic on the left and Sonny up front, right, alongside Kane, and do whatever they have to do with their relationship. But when you play 3-4-3 and you're looking for the 3 men up top to work into different spaces, and Perisic naturally tries to go into that, I also think it's a problem because every opposition team sets up knowing full well that Tottenham are more dangerous down their left than they are down their right, and they overload the left side when they don't have the ball, and they give space on the right because they know that Emerson can't do anything. So for me, it's like it's not just an individual thing. Like Perisic is just solely responsible for Sonny. Sonny's been poor with his confidence, but for me, like maybe when you have Doherty back in and Decky along on the right hand side, and the threat from the right is equal to the threat from the left, then maybe there's naturally more space, and then maybe maybe Sonny and Perisic can work together because they have more space to do and operate in when you have a better combination on the right. But until you have that whole system sorted out, I don't think that Perisic should be starting against Everton, because it looks like Decky's not going to be playing alongside Doherty. So if you agree or disagree, you can let me know, Dave. But we're going to finish this up in 6 minutes. So I just want to walk me through your starting 11 tomorrow, and walk me through how you see the game going, however you want to do it.
I think, look, Hugo Lloris obviously starts in goal. I do think Doherty will start. It'd be interesting to see whether Spence gets any minutes off the bench at all. For me, there people are saying that Sanchez could end up coming in for Romero. I completely disagree with that. I think Romero is good enough and fit enough to be able to play tomorrow and Wednesday night against Manchester United. I think if Sanchez comes in, we're creating a rod off our own back. I think he makes other people around him nervous. If he makes fans nervous, you imagine what them players playing alongside him is. So it's got to be Romero. It's got to be Dyer. And for me, I think it's got to be Langley, even though I do think Davies will come in. I think you've got to have Langley, because if you want to dominate the possession, because having possession is also a way of keeping your opponents from without any danger. Having possession, the longer you keep possession, the more they don't carry it at a threat whatsoever because they don't have the ball. It's just obvious. So I think Lenglet's got to play. I would like to see Perisic tomorrow, but I for son's sake, I would like to see Session play, for son's sake.
Okay.
I'm going to go with midfield. I'm going to go with Bentancur and Højbjerg to start. And I'm going to go with Richarlison, Kane and Son up top. Now, how I see this game unfolding, Sean, I think, first 15, 20 minutes might be a bit cagey. But for me, I do see us exposing Everton's high line. I think Tarkowski, Connor Cody, not a lot of pace between them. I'm expecting Seamus Coleman to play because Nathan Patterson is out injured. Again, not a lot of pace there. So there's going to be a lot of room for us to get in behind and be able to expose that. So I would be getting Kane to drop in to pick up the ball and getting Sonny to make his runs in behind and get Kane to find him. But I worry about us defensively, where Everton have carried a threat this season is from set pieces. They don't score many from open play, but they carry a threat from set pieces. Connor Cody attacking the ball, James Tarkowski attacking the ball. And if we remember back on the Jose Mourinho in the Cup, they also dominated us from set pieces. Yerry Mina at the time dominated us. So set pieces have been a real problem. Conceded against Sporting, conceded another late one against Frankfurt, and late goals has also been a problem. So for me, we have to be winning going into the last 5-10 minutes because we have this season switched off. 4 late goals, 1 against Fulham, which made the game cagey, 2 against Sporting, which ended up losing us the game, and 1 against Frankfurt, which again made the game cagey. So we've got to be winning going into the last from 85 minutes onwards. But I do think if Everton score, I back them from scoring from a set piece shot.
Yeah, interesting, mate. For me, I feel like it's another one. I agree with everything you just said. Literally every word you just said. The only contemplation I have is regarding Richarlison. I know if Decky isn't fit, I personally believe that 3-4-3 is the way to go at home. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And we have a 100% record at home. That is something that is so rare after this many games in the season. So I think the 3-4-3. I've been a big advocate for 3-5-2 when needs must. And for me, it does away from home against Brighton. It's the right call. But at home, I think you have to stick 3-4-3. I'm okay with Richarlison on the right. I do want to come back to that. So just let me finish up my point, and I want to ask you the last point before we wrap up about Richarlison and how I think we can see the best out of him. But I take your point entirely. I think if Tottenham score first, if we can get an early goal in the first 15 minutes, Dave, then we can go on and win this game 3 or 4-0. Anthony Gordon being suspended, he is the danger man. I know that they've got some good players in Iwobi and Onana and stuff, but for me, I think that Anthony Gordon is a real danger man. He was the only person that gave a shit in the game last season, the same leg last season. And Tottenham were interested in him. Chelsea were interested in him. I don't think he's currently worth the 60 million quid that Everton have put the price on his head. But I do think he will turn out to be an absolute superstar. He's very young and he's very good going forward. He's good dribbling. He's got a little bit of like a Brian Hill kind of side to him, but he's also got a bit of strength and he gets back and tackles and does his job defensively. I've got a lot of time for the guy, so I'm glad that he's not going to play. And if Tottenham are going to the game and win 0-0 at half time, I think it could be a nervy second half, and I think then we could have problems. But if we get the first goal inside 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I think we could go on and smash them 4-0. And I can't wait to put my bet on, and I'll announce my bet tomorrow on your on the show with you. I do want to ask you just quickly about Richarlison, because you know that I haven't been a massive fan of Richarlison. I wasn't particularly on board with the 60 million quid transfer. And I totally understand that we've only seen him on the left and we've only seen him on the right. And he hasn't particularly fit those kind of models very well. I personally think he overcomplicates the pass. He's got a bad first touch and he tries to be too clever with nutmegs and back heels and all that crap. But look, he does contribute. He does get involved. And I can't knock the guy for his passion. But if you agree with me, and tell me if you do or don't, that his best role is in the 9, where he plays for Barcelona, for Brazil, then was it worth buying a guy who's inadequate on the right and the left and only at his best as a substitute for the guy who never gives up a minute unless he's injured. Do you think we're ever going to see 60 million quid's worth of value out of him if we have to wait for him to play in the 9 to see it, knowing full well that unless Harry Kane is injured, he's not going to give up those minutes?
Look, I agree with you. I didn't think at the time he was worth 60 million, but what I was a fan of is we've all said this. If you want him, pay the money and get him over the line. If he's the target you want, and that's what we went and gone and done. So I can't really moan and complain about that. If that's what their value to him is, which you can understand it from the Everton point of view because he kept them up last season. He turned up and scored the goals when it mattered most.
So what last season for Everton?
Yeah, most of his goals came in the I think 6 out of 10 or 11 of his goals.
He scored 9 goals from open play, 10 goals, one pen.
Yeah, but they all came in the run-in for Everton last season. The majority, a lot of them goals came in the run-in in the majority end of last season. So I can understand the value to Everton. Plus they needed the money at the time. They were in big trouble, so they had to get as much as they could. So I can understand from an Everton point of view. I can also understand it from a Tottenham point of view. And I think, look, will we see 60 million? I'm not so sure, but we're being honest. It's better than a Carlos Vinicius. We brought in here.
Vinicius scored. Listen, I wasn't a fan of him either, but he scored 10 goals and he didn't cost us a penny. It was a loan and he cost us 40 grand a week.
He scored a tap in from 4 yards against Aston Villa, and the rest of them were against mediocre teams in the Europa Conference League. Now, when it comes to giving Harry Kane a rest, that option's still there. It means you don't have to bring him to the League Cup games. You don't have to bring him to early round of FA Cup games. You don't even have to bring him, put him on the bench. You can just say, look, Harry, take the evening off. I'm going to play Richarlison, and I'll bring up a youngster from the under-21s, and he can be the backup on the bench. So there's still time to give Kane rest. But also, if Tottenham can get themselves in command and positions in games, and they learn to kill it off teams like Conte wants them to do, rather than being a soft touch in the last 5-10 minutes of games, which we have been, there would be more opportunity to give Kane minutes off, to take him off the pitch and put Richarlison up there and give him some minutes. But until we learn to do that, I don't think you'll see it. But the whole idea is just not having to play Kane for 90 minutes against a fucking team from League Two in any of the cup games on a Tuesday night where it's pissing rain, it's freezing cold. There's a risk of injury because defenders want to make a name for themselves. You're exposed to all the elements rather than what you would be at like a Tottenham Hotspur or at like a Premier League stadium. You're a lot more exposed to the elements. So there's a number of things, and there's a higher risk of injury and being tired, and also Kane just not wanting to be there. So for me, that's why you bring in Richarlison and you play him in the games. He gets goals, he builds his confidence, and that will replicate in the Premier League. But we haven't had a chance to do that this season because the way the fixtures are. And with Kulu being injured, he's had to come straight in. And I think he's been unfortunate, but I agree. I think he's let me down in Link Up play, but we know what he's good at, Sean. What did Everton do? Get the ball into the box, let him go and attack it. Where did his best performance come from this season? Marseille. What did we do? Get the ball out wide, let him go and attack it. So we know what he's good at.
Yeah, 100%, my man. 100%. Listen, I haven't fallen out. I love Richarlison. I've fallen in love with him because of his personality and his drive and his attention and his passion.
Let me ask you this: if Kulu wasn't injured, do you think? Because look, I know Kulu was dropped before Richarlison was playing for Kulu before Kulu got injured, right? But obviously, Kulu would have been back in the team by now if he wasn't injured. Would Richarlison suffer the same as Basuma? As someone like maybe Spence and stuff like that, in terms of getting up to, the position and what he's asked for tactically, and maybe not seeing as near as many minutes as he has seen if Kulu was fit.
Yeah, 100%.
So he wouldn't look as exposed as he is now.
100. Yeah, it's a really great point. Great question. Great point. 100%. He's been thrown into the deep end, and he's been made to figure it out. And some would say exposed before he's ready. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's a brilliant point, mate. And we should discuss this more tomorrow. I think it's a valid point that people don't play in Conte's system unless Conte thinks they're ready or unless we have no other choice. Brian Hill hasn't played a bean.
Good words on Brian Hill today, Sean.
Yeah. No, listen, mate. I know you've been somebody who's been a massive backer of Brian Hill. Your channel has been someone that's always supported him. I love, Gil Messi, right? I love the guy. I want the guy to figure it out. I still believe. Listen, I loved what he did in those little cameo minutes. I thought it was spectacular, and I was so happy for the guy. And at the same time, also so devastated for him that it didn't turn into a goal, and that was Harry Kane's fault, if anything. But look, I haven't seen the press conference yet. Do you have the quotes in front of you that you could?
Of course I do, Shawnee. I'm a big fan. Of course I do. Just give me 1 second. I'll get them up for you, brother. Where are they? So basically, on Gil Messi, now there's a bit of a longer quote. I just took the quote that suited my narrative, to be honest with you. But basically, where's the quote gone? Basically, what he said, Sean, the nuts and the bolts of the quote is, I think I've actually lost it, but the nuts and the bolts of the quote is basically, Sean, what he said is on a technical aspect, he has an important understanding of the game, and he's completely fine.
Okay.
He just needs to get up to the physicality of the Premier League. Is basically what he said about the guy. So technical wise, not a problem. He's going to be an important prospect for the future, he reckons. But he has to learn to adapt to the physicality, but he's getting there.
And that's great. That's amazing news, right? Because I think a lot of people in Tottenham Hotspur fandom had kind of written him off as somebody that we spent a lot of money on that wasn't going to play. And that little cameo that he had against Frankfurt was everything we needed at that particular point in the game. I know it was against 10 men, but the shape and the shift on his weight, it was fantastic. Listen, if he can go and, I'm not even sure if it requires him to go and put on 10 pounds, because there's a consequence of putting on 10 pounds of body weight, which means that you're not quite as dynamic and flexible. But whatever it is, he needs, and I don't know, I'm not like a sports scientist, so I don't know what it requires, but whatever it is, figure it out, because I think we have there an option, and he is a perfect plan B or a plan C. I love the fact that Conte is coming out now and starting to drop some positive truth bombs on some of the players that until now, a lot of Tottenham fans have been like, well, why are you saying nothing or negative things? There's an old phrase, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And Conte, for a couple of the players, has always, never said anything positive and then just sort of throwing people under the bus. And it's nice to see that he's starting to kind of shift that narrative. And it's also nice, mate, to hear today. And the last thing we're going to say, I know you got to go. I've got to go as well. No. Just last little comment, right? The Google News. So before I get there, let me just round this up. So are you in agreement with me, generally speaking? Correct me if I'm wrong here, but we both agree that Lloris is in goal, Romero, Dyer, Longley, either Sessegnon or Perisic, but both of us would probably rather have Sessegnon.
Yeah.
And then Doherty's probably the right wing back. In the middle, we think it's probably going to be the same two of Bentancur and Højbjerg, and then the front three of Sonny, Kane and Richarlison. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So shifting away from that to the last little bit of news. Obviously, there's been a whole bunch of really positive, almost done noises in the last 12 hours. One of them is about the deal that we spoke about, a couple of days ago. Super positive, and it looks today. Loads of in the knows have said, it's basically done or it's getting done. On top of that, you've got the news about Antonio Conte and that Tottenham are prepared and we're close to sitting down with him and signing him up. Right, this should be a day for Tottenham fans to be like super positive, right? Because the hierarchy, for all of their follies and their flaws, are getting things done that secure the future of Tottenham Hotspur in a massive positive light. And that is securing the future of our manager, who's the best manager we've had since Bill Nicholson, and securing the future finances of Tottenham Hotspur with an amazing company, whether you like them or not, for whatever they do with data and stuff. But generally speaking, financially speaking, if this is coming close, this should be a day where everybody behind the Tottenham fan base should be happy and celebrating all things Tottenham Hotspur. I just wanted to get your take on that.
Look, I think it's a good thing for Tottenham. I think no matter what side of the camp you're in, whether you want the owners out and you don't think they've done a good job, absolutely love the owners, or even if you're middle of the fence and you think there's some good and some bad, I think it's a good day for everybody. At the end of the day, whatever way you look at it, okay, it basically assures you for 20 years worth of debt. It gives you at least 25 million to be able to clear off that every single season after repayments, which then in turn frees up that money that you would have spent doing that to use elsewhere, which hopefully you will see reflected in the transfer budget in some way, and maybe other little things as well. So I think no matter what way you come at it, I think it's a very good thing for Tottenham Hotspur as long as the money is used in the right direction. Sean, you know how I feel about the upgraded technology on the pitch, and I fully take on board what you say about being able to turn over stadium quicker, which means you can bring in more concerts and a lot more things to the stadium, which means more revenue, etc., etc. But I would hold off on that for a couple of years because it's only 3 years old. And out of fairness to the fans, because what you've asked them to do, I would look to put that in the transfer budget. But I think also you would be doing yourself good from a PR thing by doing that and saying, okay, I respect you fans. You have waited, you've been patient. I'm going to pay you back. So for me, I think the money has to be used right. But no matter what way you look at it, it's a bloody good thing for Tottenham.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And like I said, when I first came across the news, I posited the concept that I think that one hand washes the other, and that just generally speaking, I think that people that get super pissed off about Daniel Levy, and because they think that the reason why we haven't won a trophy in more than one trophy in 20 years is because of him. For me, and this is just my take on it, coming from a position where I look at things slightly differently because of my experience in certain sectors, I think that you could look at it a different way. And I'm not going to get into this in detail now, but I genuinely think that if Daniel Levy and ENIC weren't the owners of Tottenham Hotspur, we wouldn't have the stadium that we have. We wouldn't have the training ground that we have. And there's no knowledge either way, because you don't know what's going to happen if you take a different path in life. But generally speaking, I think that if Tottenham Hotspur were still playing in a 36,000 seater stadium, there's no way that you can pay. There's no way you can generate the revenues that you can pay for the players that you need to win trophies in the 2020 plus era. It's just that the world's gone to a different level, and the requirements financially to compete at this current level are on a different planet to where they were in the past. And so having somebody in charge, having people in charge that understand on a very esoteric level the requirements to generate funding, financing, revenues from every potential possible avenue is a wonderful thing. Now, I know that I'm a very unpopular person for some people to say, that to defend the ENIC board, but it's just, in my opinion, and I'm coming from a place of experience, like I just know that you one hand washes the other. You can't do A without B, and B is significant, consistent, and ridiculously high levels of funding, unless you have an ownership model that seeks funding from other ways. And Tottenham don't have that. Now, if you want that, then I understand. If you don't have any problem with those kind of ownership models, then that's okay. And maybe this particular Google deal will expedite the process, and I genuinely believe it could expedite the process in which Tottenham are now put up for sale, because any potential person who wants to buy, or syndicate who wants to buy a club for $3, $4, $5 billion, they want to have significant, consistent, guaranteed revenues coming into their product, coming into their model. Mm-hmm. And so this Google deal is a pathway for people that are on the Levy out bandwagon to see what they want. I'm not saying it will happen, but I think it's actually incredibly more likely that Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis and all those guys will actually put the club up for sale now, or if and when they have the revenues coming in. That doesn't suit certain narratives. Certain people always want to find a reason to blame Levy for everything. And that's okay. Like, I don't care. Every opinion's welcome. There's no echo chambers on Spurs Talk Show. But for me, this is good news. It should be seen as good news. And it regards the technology, Dave. I hear you. I take your point. I don't think that thing. I did posit the idea that maybe Google's deal would be prerequisite, like it would be a condition of the deal to have that thing put in place. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen overnight. I'm sure that stuff takes a long time to organize, and it has to happen like after the season finishes. So maybe that's a summer deal anyway, because you can't dig up all of the, all of the underground systems during the season. But
sure,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, mate. Of course, yeah.
With the amount of money that is expected to be generated from that deal over a substantial period of time, does it mean Spurs can do something like what Barcelona done, which is gamble on your future debt? And look, I don't want Tottenham on your future income, and I don't want Tottenham to do that. I think it'd be stupid. But does it open the possibility? Because you never know. Like, it could happen, and I don't want that to happen. You know more about finances.
What Barcelona did. Barcelona is obviously one of the biggest brands in the sporting world, and they essentially sold. I think it was, from memory, I could be wrong, but I think it was something like 25 or 35% of all of their future, like 50% of all of their future TV revenues, their media revenues, or 50% of all of their, because they have a separate entity. I think it's like Barcelona merchandise or something like that. It's a separate entity, and they essentially sold 50% or the 100% of the entirety of every revenue that comes from that segment of their fan base around the world for the next generation, 25, 30 years, to get paid $500 million up front from whoever the purchaser was. It was an investment bank, I think. It might have been Goldman Sachs. Again, I could be wrong on the specifics, but generally speaking, what they did was they said, we need to compete right now. So we're willing to give up the future of Barcelona's revenue streams to you if you give us a check right now, because they need to compete, because they were in massive debt. I don't want Tottenham Hotspur to do that. And the reason
why I ask it, Sean, is because, correct me if I'm wrong, they still have to build cinema and apartments and stuff like that, right? Like, can they say,
Tottenham?
Yeah,
but that's got nothing to do with Tottenham Hotspur revenue.
Where I'm coming from with that, could they say, okay, well, we're guaranteed this, so we want to take out another loan or extend our loan or top up on our loan so that we can take that money to go and build that, and then say, oh, we'll use this money to pay it back in the future. Tottenham can't do that, right?
No, well, Tottenham Hotspur, so to simplify it, you've got Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, just like Barcelona had separate entities regarding their merchandise and their media revenues. I don't know whether Tottenham Hotspur have got that stuff, right? How they segment it. That has never been, as far as I'm aware, explained or at least released. But the Tottenham Hotspur stuff that's going on around with Tottenham Haringey Council and the requirements that they had to sign deals with the Haringey Council around redevelopment, around flats and apartments and cinema complexes, all of that stuff that was signed by, it wasn't signed by Tottenham Hotspur PLC, it was signed by a subsector of it, right? That is financed solely from ENIC. And that money that comes in to develop those apartments, to buy up that land, that was all necessary. It was all part of the deal in order for Tottenham to get planning permission to rebuild the stadium. So in a nutshell, Tottenham Hotspur couldn't have the stadium that they have right now, which can generate the revenues that it does right now, unless they signed these requirements to regenerate parts of Haringey Council. But the money that is going into regenerating Haringey Council is not coming from Tottenham Hotspur, right? It's coming from ENIC. So here's where the cloudiness exists, is that if you want to, then you could say, well, ENIC could have just put the money into Tottenham Hotspur, right? And that's a fair argument if you believe that a business owner should have to necessarily fund a football club, and it not be self-sustainable. I personally do not subscribe to the idea that a football club should have to survive and exist from third-party funding and them going into debt in order to self-survive. Liverpool don't do it. Brighton don't do it, right? Manchester City do it. Chelsea did do it. Newcastle will do it. All of that money, like Newcastle, Chelsea, Barcelona, all those clubs, Paris Saint-Germain, those clubs can't sustain themselves. Tottenham Hotspur tries to, right? Liverpool tries to, right? But Tottenham Hotspur's, the funding that pays for the cinema and the apartments that is not money that comes from Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. It comes from ENIC, but ENIC is a property development company. So they're a multi-billion-dollar company. So they take the money from their coffers and they loan that money and have debt and all that stuff. And they utilize that. They do what they have to do in order to make the stadium work. But for anybody,
they literally can't go that 25 million or whatever it is a year. They literally can't go, okay, that 25 million, we're going to use the future income and take out a loan in ENIC's name, but we're going to take a loan out to buy that in Tottenham's name. They cannot do that. Am I right?
I don't know whether they can't do it. But they wouldn't do it. Right? It's two separate entities. Bearing in mind, right, like ENIC is not just they're the owners of Tottenham Hotspur. They're also the owners of, golf courses. They're also the owners of hotels in the Bahamas. They're part of the Tavistock Group that also have ownership in a million different things. They're like a multi-investment company. The point that all that stuff is irrelevant. If you want to be ENIC out, the argument to hate on Tottenham, the argument to hate on ENIC, if you want to be ENIC out, the argument is that they could choose to invest more money, like what the Manchester City owners do or the Newcastle owners do, and find, ways around the complexities of FFP through shell corporations. They could do that because they're wealthy enough to do it, but they choose not to do it. I personally don't think that you should have to do that. I think a business, a football club, anything should be able to stand on its own 2 feet and generate enough money to sustain itself. And that's what Tottenham Hotspur does. That's what Liverpool does. That's what Manchester United does, right? Manchester United have owners that take dividends and pay the Glazers in America 30 million quid a year. Those guys are nasty. They don't put any money in, but they take significant sums out. Tottenham don't do that. But people like Chelsea, Abramovich, under the Abramovich days, Abramovich put $1 billion as a loan. And then just when he left, he just wrote it off, which is incredibly illegal. I don't want to bore you with all the bollocks, mate.
I enjoy it.
In a nutshell, anybody that says, if you're somebody that's listening to people that are ENIC out and they say we're buying a cinema and not a player, that's bullshit. It's bollocks. They're two completely separate things. They're two complete, and all of the apartments that were built and bought by Tottenham Hotspur, that money was never intended to go into the football club. And Tottenham Hotspur's football club profits do not go to pay for stadium. I
guess that's what I was asking. That's what I was.
Does that make sense? Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's what I was asking. I just wanted to make sure they couldn't say, well, there's 100 million guaranteed in future revenue from this deal. So now we're going to take out a loan and gamble on future revenue and go and pay for the apartment and cinema. So that can't happen.
None of that shit. They're completely separate. The apartments pay for themselves, and when they get sold, they go back to ENIC. And when Tottenham Hotspur makes $1 million from a media spend or from a player sale or for whatever, that money stays at Tottenham Hotspur. And it's the way it should be done. And anyone that's got a problem with that, they either don't understand finance or they would rather have a system that is unsustainable managing your club. And that would require you to be okay with certain, political, realities. And if you're okay with that, you're okay with that. I get it. I'm not trying to change anyone's opinion, but for me, that's not what I want. I want a club that can live and breathe on its own 2 feet, and so maybe I'm so massively off. I don't know how we got into this.
No, you're not. My
glass of red wine.
No, I asked you the question. You answered it, man. I just wanted to make sure he couldn't gamble on that money to take out and build that.
All of that stuff is separate, but the money that comes from Google, it goes back into the club. It's either going to pay down the debt, or it's going to pay for Conte's new contract, or it's going to pay for the new right foot of a brilliant wing back or whatever. But I also don't want, if it does come in and it's $500 million over 20 years, or if it's $1 billion over 30 years, whatever it is, it's not going to be some giant paycheck where, we get that money and we can go and spend it. It's going to be every year, 30 million quid, which, so I don't want everyone to suddenly get super excited and then hold ENIC and Levy accountable because the Google deal came in. I can already imagine some people saying the Google deal came in November. Why didn't we go and buy Hakimi in January? Right, and I don't want to hear that bollocks, because the two are not connected. Like it's you have a sustainable another revenue fund, and the thing why Levy out people should be excited, Dave, is because having that revenue stream coming in guaranteed for 20 years makes ENIC eminently more sellable than they are without it. And so whether you're Levy in or Levy out, ENIC in or Levy out, or ENIC out, you should be happy about this deal, because it means that either there's money going to come in and ENIC will do more what you want, or ENIC are more likely to sell the club. So everyone should be supportive of this, and everyone should also be supportive of the idea of Antonio Conte sitting down to sign a new contract.
I struggle to see many that would be unhappy with Conte sitting down to sign a new contract. So be interesting to wait and see. You never know, but I don't think there'd be anyone that'd be unhappy with that. But yeah, no, good show, son. Good show, man.
Yeah, mate. Sorry, mate. We've gone half an hour over the rant. I've been rambling on. I hope I didn't confuse anybody. But listen, mate, thank you so much for coming on, man. I think the internet's held up. Let me know in the comments, guys, if the internet was okay and there wasn't too much lag. And Dave, listen, mate, your day tomorrow is massive and long. So what's happening? Where can we find you? What's the plan?
Yeah, you can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. Got a pre-match build-up. I call it now Match Day Live. So you can come over and join me on Match Day Live. That'll be starting in around 1:30. And we'll go for a couple of, we usually go for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just talking about the game and different talking points that I have. I've got some good ones for tomorrow, and maybe I'll line one up. So if we win tomorrow, we've had our best start since I think it's 2011, 2012. Is that a reflection actually on how good our window is, rather than it being a bad window? So that'll be one of the talking points tomorrow. If you're interested in that, come over, check us out. We'll also be doing a live watch along. Not sure whether you're with us tomorrow or not, Shawnee.
I will be. I haven't because Ben from We Are Tottenham TV has been trying to get me to go to the game. I'm not. I'm gonna stay loyal to the pump up show on We Are Tottenham TV.
I told you it'd be good for you to get out. But look, Sean could change his mind tomorrow. So whether Sean be with us or not, we do not know. But we have great fun over there. So do come over and check us out. So the Irish Hotspur for me. But make sure you smash the subscribe on this channel. It's great to see Shawnee back doing live streams. From what I could see, the internet held up just fine. So hopefully we see more of it. Sean, the community needs you, my man.
I love you, Dave, mate. Thank you so much, man. It's a late one. It's 12:40. I'm going to let you crack on with the thing, with the preparation for tomorrow. I can't wait to see you then. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, everybody that's come in. Oh, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot to call out James Watson. Has become a new channel member. Big up, James. Mate, I promise you I will get I'm not going to let you down, because a lot of the other members I have let down over the last month by not being able to stream. I can only apologise to them, but thank you so much, man. If this has worked, I'll be doing this every bloody day going forward. And also, I wanted to go right the way back and say to Dermatron, if you're still listening, man, he says, great to see you back, Sean. Big up, Dave. Come on, you Spurs. Woo. Appreciate you so much, Dermatron. Appreciate everybody for stopping by this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out. I will see you tomorrow. And Dave, what's your prediction for the Tottenham-Everton game?
No, come on. I'm going to go 3-1 tomorrow, Shawnee. I'm going to predict Tottenham their best start to the season ever. So, yeah, I'm going to go 3-1. And let's make it 8 home games on the bounce where we've won. We've won 7 so far. I think 14 back in 2016-17 was the most home games we've won, Shawnee. So, hopefully, if we can equal that, that should catapult us into a title race. Exciting times ahead.
It's fucking exciting times ahead, my man. I'm going to go 3-0. I'm still going to put my massive bet on to try and win some money back. I don't think Tottenham are going to concede tomorrow against the Toffees. But ladies and gentlemen, smash a like on your way out if you haven't already, and hit the subscribe button as well if you're new here. I love you all. Dave, thank you so much. I'll let you crack on with your evening. Guys, I'll see you tomorrow on the Irish Hotspur and the We Are Tottenham TV show for the pump up. Before then, as always, guys, always. Bye-bye.
Come on, you Spurs.